Hi, Cinematic Enthuse here. Today is March 23rd, 2024, and just wanted to kind of give you my thoughts on a couple of films, actually three films that I watched. A little bit of light here. Um, the first one was She Married Her Boss, which is a 1935. You may want to check my dates on this. 1935, Claudette Colbert and Melvin Douglas. And this is one of those times where they put this film in the screwball comedy category. And it's not really, it's kind of got like it's kind of a dramedy, really. It's I think it's worth watching. Melvin Douglas and Claudette Colbert made three movies together, and Melvin's good with anybody, and Claudette's good with anybody. They're really, both of them individually are really good at working with other actors. There's a lot of actors who have a hard time with their cohorts. And I think comedy is one of those genres where you kind of, if you're going to be good at it, you have to really, kind of play off your fellow actor or actors. Sometimes it's a whole ensemble. So Melvin Douglas, I'd say this movie is worth watching if you're a fan of either one of those people or both. And I am. I'm a fan of both of them, especially in the comedy genre. But I like both of them. The story is kind of, you know, there's a lot of stories in the 30s that are obviously dated. This one is a little bit, on the one hand, there's women working in the 1930s, but there's a lot of propaganda in this particular film about, women having to choose between career and home, and you should always be propping up the husband and that kind of stuff. So, but it's not a heavy drama. It's really more of it's more of like a dramedy, because in true fashion, the last 15 minutes, spoiler alert, that's where you get your comedy, and it's Gregory LaCava directed, which you may know him from My Man Godfrey. And he also did Stage Door, which is excellent, but that's a drama too. So he tends to be a little more serious. So if you want your kind of an interesting workplace, it's a workplace dramedy, basically. That's what I would call it. But it's also got some family issues in it. And there's some nice stories that happen on the homestead. So I'd give it like almost a 3-star. It's really more of like a 2.5-star. But again, any of the ratings that I'm just, kind of like just saying off the top of my head, always watch them on your own and, make your own decisions. I have a lot of these movies logged in on my Letterboxd account, which I've been putting the links to that. And if you'd like to watch this movie and any of the movies that I mentioned, as long as I can find links to them, I will always post them in the comments on YouTube, because that's where I can post the links easily. If I find a better way to do it on other social media that's easy, I will do that. But you can always go, if you're on Instagram or TikTok, you can always go to my link in bio, and there will be either a link tree website, which will take you to my YouTube, or my YouTube itself. Okay, so that's number one. So yeah, pretty good, not bad. On the flip side, a completely different tone. Again, Claudette Colbert, and Fred MacMurray, who the two of them made even more movies together than she and Melvin Douglas. I can't remember the exact number, but it's like at least maybe 6 or 7. I don't know. Somebody can check me on that, but it's a lot. They made a lot of movies together. This one's pretty good. Pretty good. It's definitely in the 40s. It's a family movie. They're a little bit older. I like a lot of their 30s and early 40s comedies where the two of them are kind of battle of the sexes. This is still a battle of the sexes movie. If you like that kind of idea, which I do. um, because usually it propagates really interesting, witty dialogue. So this is fun. It's a fun movie. It's got the family in it. It's got family issues, but it's a travel movie too. So you get to see the Grand Canyon on location. This is like 1948 or 49, something like that. So, you know, you're getting to see a Grand Canyon that existed back then, obviously, and that's really cool. I'm sure it's much more built up now. And what's interesting about the Grand Canyon is I didn't even realize this, but I don't know if you watched the video I did a few videos ago about North by Northwest, also obviously shot partially in the Grand Canyon, although a lot of it was in the studio, but I think they had to go to the Grand Canyon at least for a couple shots. So it's interesting that I had two movies in 1 week that were both in the Grand Canyon, which I didn't expect that at all. I will definitely be coming back to Claudette Colbert and Fred MacMurray movies because they're usually really high quality. This one is definitely that. And also, honorable mention goes to Hattie McDaniel, who always steals every scene she's in. Um, the story is very interesting. It's 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 cool because it's like it seems pretty equal in contrast to She Married Her Boss, where you feel like the female and the male roles have, they kind of treat each other with somewhat, respect and stuff, which is cool. Um, these aren't things that I have to have. I tend to overlook these things when I watch 30s and 40s movies because, I don't really care. I'm just looking for the witty dialogue. But since these are both kind of family movies, they're not really like the 1930s type of movie. They're more like domestic. So that's sort of what I wanted to let you know about that movie. But Family Honeymoon, I gave 3.5 stars. It's got some really good laughs in it, and it's got some. If you've Even if you haven't had kids, but if you've been around kids, you've babysat them, you grew up around them, there's some really fun parts. You'll identify a lot with that. So, um, definitely a good family picture, of course. And plus, there's train travel, and I really enjoy seeing old trains from the 1940s, and that's really cool. So those two, Claudette Colbert, the second one with Fred MacMurray, and then yesterday I watched a very good. I did not expect this to be as good as it was. I just didn't know anything about it. It's called There Goes My Heart, and I think it's from 1937, 1938. Excuse me, 1938. The same director, Norman Z. MacLeod, who did, I believe, some Marx Brother movies, and so it's a Hal Roach production, which should tell you something. I always know we're in for a good time when Hal Roach is producing. Fun, fast paced, goofy, screwball. Completely different tone from She Married Her Boss or uh, well, that's a good example, the contrast, because they're both made within 2 years of each other. You can have two films that are both screwball comedies, but yet they're completely different tone. This one is definitely more of it's got a lot of the classic screwball things, social classes. So you have the female character plays a rich heiress, and these are really fun movies, I think, when the rich person, whether it's a male or female, doesn't matter, switches places class wise. They switch places to be either a lower class or a working class, usually a working class person. And she does that in this movie. Spoiler alert, but it's kind of obvious. It's from the description. You can see it. And so she does that in this movie. And it brings up an interesting point because a lot of the people with the classic stories you usually hear about people with a lot of money, like billions and billions, they get bored with their lifestyle, and they want to, be able to experience things that the lower classes experience. In this case, back in the 30s, it would have been going to a fair or some kind of like carnival or something like that. Things that like that were common at that time. And So there's a whole love story that gets involved, of course, with somebody that is actually um, supposed to be her antagonist. And so that's kind of a fun situation to work out because they aren't, in the beginning, they aren't really supposed to be matched for each other. There's some really great, like, fun, like, there's this one scene in particular you should look out for where I didn't know this, that musical chairs could be played on like roller skates or ice skates. I always heard about musical chairs being played like just with chairs in a living room and stuff like that. But it's really neat to be able to see some of these things that happened back in the 30s and maybe even earlier, to see how people would, have fun back then and what kinds of things were at a carnival and stuff like that. So there's that scene. But more importantly, Patsy Kelly, if you're a Patsy Kelly fan, if you're a Alan Mowbray, the British character actor, and Patsy Kelly, obviously a comedy character actor. The two of them are great. Eugene Pellette, you will know him from The Lady Eve, and he's been in several other screwball comedies. He's got that big, gruff voice. He's in it. He's great. And so those are basically the three movies, and I will definitely post the links to each of them so that you can listen on your own. So I hope to talk to you soon.